So we're talking about overcoming codependency and trying to manifest as our more authentic self. One of the things with this is, of course, there is no utopian goal state called the authentic self. You're either in your own way or you're not. And if you're not in your own way, whatever it is that you're showing up as, that's your authentic self. This is rare. It's extremely rare. There is so much ideological bombardment that we're subjected to that it's extremely rare for anybody to show up as an authentic person, which means in the culture that we're in, most of us are somewhere on the scale of codependency, just through the ideological bombardment alone, never mind abuse in childhood or anything else. This level of codependency means that we need other people to show us who we are. In Ovid's myth from the Metamorphoses of Echo and Narcissus, Echo is cursed so that she can never speak her own words. She just repeats and echoes the last few words of whatever she heard. So she is in a toxically yin, passive state, and that's through a curse that's laid upon her. You all know the myth of Narcissus. He falls in love with his own image and gazing into it forevermore. He either dies staring into his own reflection, or in some myths he turns to stone. Either way, he ceases to be alive. In Ovid's myth of Echo, it's interesting because she sees him and she instantly falls in love with him and she wants to pursue him, and he rejects her harshly and inflicts a terrible narcissistic injury. So we have the narcissist, Narcissus, and we have Echo. The Echo is a pure codependent. She cannot speak for herself because of the curse. She sees the narcissist, Narcissus, and sees somebody who is so self-involved and so full of self-love, the self-love that she critically lacks. It's killing him, or probably we could say already has killed him in infancy, because there is no authentic self left there. But she becomes obsessed with that, and he rejects her. He is locked in toxic yang, she is locked in toxic yin. He can only be involved with his self, and she can only be involved with the other. So he is a singular point of reference, and it's purely internalized, which is dangerous and sick, and her point of reference is purely externalized, which is dangerous and sick. We all want to be yin, yang, flowing, moving, sometimes external, sometimes internal, across a healthy spectrum, depending on the context. She falls in love with him, and she cannot escape him. And in Ovid's myth, she withers and dies gazing upon him. She's locked in. So he dies gazing upon himself, and she dies gazing upon this creature who is so vain that he falls in love with his own image. This is a good myth for understanding codependency. I call it echo codependency. It's for the most extreme end of the spectrum of codependency, which I would call being toxically yin. We have been so abused and have had so much of us carved out. We're an empty cup, and therefore we're a perfect vessel for ideology, for abuse, for other people's ideas and concepts. Typically this would have happened in childhood. We would have experienced a very, very painful, harsh, rejecting environment, as Echo was harshly rejected by Narcissus. We will have been rejected by our family. We will have been rejected by our parents. And this creates a narcissistic injury that, unless we do something about it, we live with for life, that's so powerful, it bends the personality in a way that makes us want to be completely servile. But we're servile only to tyrants. We're servile only to the most aggressive narcissists. And that's how we can feel ourselves artificially brought back to life. So the narcissist is dead. The codependent, the extreme echo codependent, is dead, but they feel a simulation of life in this symbiosis with the narcissist who refeeds them narcissistic supply. The narcissist who is dead also can only feel the simulation of being alive when receiving adulation and narcissistic supply from the echo. So the first part that we'll do, we're going to look at codependency and the mechanics of it. In order for me to deliver something of value in a 2-hour seminar, that means that you might, because it says overcoming codependency, ain't nobody walking out of here having overcome codependency inside of 2 hours. That's not going to happen. But I hope to be able to show you at least the pathway where you could start working on that. In my humble opinion, not so humble opinion, codependency is harder to overcome than CPTSD. The mechanics of CPTSD are complex, of course they are, but they're not insurmountable. Codependency, a true codependent is trained into codependency from a very, very young age. And that means the way in which a codependent relates to reality itself is codependent. So it's quite deep. It's quite deep. We're gonna get into why it is that way. And hopefully I won't freak you out with how dark this is. The ultimate starting place of codependency is rejection, avoidance. So we are avoidant types. That's the nature of ongoing codependency. The avoidance and the rejection, the primal one, typically will have come from the family. So within the family unit, you will have been rejected. Not necessarily entirely, but major parts of you will have been rejected. Because the way we love ourselves is a reflection of the way our parents loved us, our tendency will be to reject ourselves then. These roots are deep. They're very, very, very deep. So the work we have to do is pretty intense. With CPTSD, you can chop it into 3 parts. You can say, okay, we have the emotional dysregulation, the superego injunctions, the emotional flashbacks. And inside of 12 weeks, if you're doing the work, you should have made a lot of headway, because it's just not that insurmountable. It's pretty straightforward. Codependency, I'm still working on it. I'm still trying to find ways. There isn't a mystical end goal state called the authentic self. Your authentic self is just who you are spontaneously when codependency isn't cutting you off from that. So that means that we as codependents are cut off through that rejection from being ourselves. So you can't accept yourself because you were not accepted. It's a double bind. It's sort of a negative feedback loop. I was not accepted, I was rejected, therefore I cannot accept myself. So we are self-rejecting, we are self-negating, we are self-avoidant. Here's a lovely little myth that you won't be able to read. I'll read it out to you. Okay, so I'm going to talk about narcissism in a moment, and I'm going to talk about something that I call echo codependency, because I want to try and have a definition that's distinct from what other people are saying. So we're not talking Alcoholics Anonymous, the spouse of an alcoholic or a drug addict. We're not talking the victims of narcissistic abuse solely and uniquely. Hello. Hello. Please come in. Hi, take a seat. The nature of this is archetypal. You'll have heard me in different videos talking about yang and yin, the yin-yang principle. So this original mythology around Narcissus and Echo is a perfect example of yang and yin behaving toxically. So the myth of the goddess Echo is told in the 3rd book of the Metamorphoses by Ovid. It tells the story of a talkative nymph. You know what nymphs are, these mystical creatures, female, who run through the woods naked, whom the goddess Venus admires for her magnificent voice and song. So originally, Echo was very chatty and she could sing beautifully. She had a good voice. She had her voice. When she tricked Juno into believing that her husband Jupiter was in the city, Juno curses Echo by making her able to only finish a sentence not started and unable to say anything on her own. So a goddess curses her and says, you cannot say anything on your own. This is a quote. Yet a chatterbox had no other use of speech that she has now, that she could repeat only the last words out of many. The echo codependent doesn't really have spontaneous thoughts and feelings. The echo codependent only repeats what others are saying. We are pure yin in the worst way. Empty vessels into which other people can put their ideology, their abuse, or whatever it is. Hello, how you doing? Back again. Back for more punishment. So this is the explanation of the aural effect of the echo, which was named after her. I don't know, what do you say in Serbian for echo? Echo. Echo. Just with a little more Balkan feel. So sometime after being cursed, Echo spies a young man in her lust. He's Narcissus, he's beautiful. This is while he was out hunting deer with his companions. She immediately sees him and falls in love with him, and infatuated, she starts stalking him. The more she looked at the young man, the more she longed for him. Though she wished with all her heart to call out to Narcissus, Juno's curse prevented her. She wants yang, she wants content, she wants drive, she wants assertiveness, but because she's cursed, she can't speak, she can't say it, she can't approach him. That ability is gone. Echo codependents cannot approach the things they want. We have tremendous approach avoidance issues. We are entirely avoidant. So she's physically incapable of doing it. During the hunt, Narcissus becomes separated from his companions and he calls out, "Is anyone there?" And he heard the nymph repeat his words, "Is anyone there?" Startled, Narcissus answered the voice, "Come here," only to be told the same, "Come here." When Narcissus saw that nobody had emerged from the glade, he concluded that the owner of the voice must be running away from him and called out again. Finally, he shouted, "This way, we must come together." Taking this to be a reciprocation of her love, Echo concurred ecstatically, "We must come together." Narcissus is talking to himself. He's not really talking to anybody. He's confused. He's talking to invisibility. And he's saying, "We must come together." And she says, "Oh, so you do love me then? We must come together." This is not the conscious agreement of a union between two healthy adults. This is two people who are fundamentally confused about who they're speaking to and what the meaning of the interaction is. They are confused about whom they are speaking to and what the meaning of words are in that interaction. He said twice, significantly. In her delight, so she's now in elation because she thinks he loves her, Echo rushes to Narcissus, ready to throw her arms around her beloved. Narcissus, however, is appalled and spurning her, exclaimed, "Hands off! May I die before you enjoy my body." All Echo could whisper in reply was, "Enjoy my body." And having done so, she fled, scorned, humiliated, and shamed. Echo is completely rejected. The person that she was reaching out to was the wrong person, and she misinterpreted the signals, and he's appalled by that. And then he hurts her. He generates tremendous narcissistic injury. Despite the harshness of his rejection, Echo's love for Narcissus only grew. When Narcissus died, wasting away before his own reflection, you all know that story, he falls in love with his own reflection, consumed by a love that could not be. That could not be. Narcissus and Echo, the love can never be, it's doomed. It's completely doomed. Echo mourned over his body when Narcissus, looking one last time into the pool, uttered to himself, "O marvelous boy, I loved you in vain, farewell." Echo two choruses, farewell. Now this, you don't hear this much, but it's entirely relevant to my concept of echo codependency, is the last part. Eventually Echo 2 in this myth, not all the Echo myths, but in Ovid's myth, begins to waste away. Her beauty slowly fades, her skin shrivels, and her bones turn to stone. Today, all that remains of Echo is the sound of her voice. In a certain sense, the narcissist in that toxic yang state is a killer. which is why we're obsessed when we're interacting with narcissists, be they male or female. We get the sense of dealing with a murderous archetype, a predator who is a killer. Sometimes they're killers. They're not literally killers though. Typically, that would be a psychopath. What they're killing is love. What they're killing is intimacy. What they kill is vulnerability. Echo freezes and then slowly dies. When you are a codependent, you die. You die. So if you are an echo codependent, if you're on a sliding scale of codependency, it's not that bad. My claim is if you're a true echo codependent, you are not alive. You haunt your own life. You haunt your own body. You possess that which could be. But you're never spontaneously and truly alive because you can't be. It's a death-like state that we exist in. It's extremely tough because we only ever feel alive when we're interacting with narcissists. Nobody else will do. It has to be somebody who is completely obsessed with their own image because they have what we lack. We have no regard for ourselves and no self-image to fall in love with, and they have everything that we think we need, which is tremendous self-regard and tremendous amounts of self-love. Does that make sense? We're trying, it's not, I don't want you in this internet forum garbage culture of thinking that we're perfect martyrs and sinless. We also are predators, but we're covert and we hide it even from ourselves. We're trying to entrap people like this. And you've got to remember, with narcissists, yes, on the spectrum of morality, if we're being morally judgmental, narcissists are worse. Yes. They do worse things. Yes. More criminal things. Absolutely. But if we're going to talk about dishonesty and manipulation and entrapment, we also are hunting them passively. We passively hunt to entrap so that we can try to absorb what they have. Doesn't work because you can't do that. Hello. 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 Good evening. Welcome. So this becomes, over time, it will make you very, very sick. And I think it leads to a lot of physical sicknesses. Physical sicknesses, how dare you, get off me, that relate to not being truly in the body, not being present. So illnesses where people can end up feeling very, very physically exhausted for no known reason, or where they feel an awful lot of pain, but there's no source. My suspicion, it's just a suspicion, it's just a hypothesis, is this is all related to codependency. But a deep, morbid echo codependency. The human being who's presented, who's saying, I'm exhausted, or I'm full of pain and I don't know where it comes from. You know about these illnesses, yeah? They're really, really difficult to treat. The only thing they can do is put people on extraordinarily powerful drugs. There's a woman who lived next door to me for a while. She's from Croatia, but she was in Sarajevo throughout the 90s, and she had this. She just had terrible physical pain. No idea where it came from. And one day she said to me, she said, would you read through my prescriptions? I'm confused about what I'm supposed to get. And could you tell me what they do for me? So she handed me like a sheet of notes like this. I'm not a doctor or a pharmacologist. I just use Wikipedia the same way anybody else would, and went through the thing, and it was mind-blowing. Absolutely. They had her on lithium, and she had nothing physically wrong with her, but she was in so much pain she couldn't function. Sometimes trauma that's extraordinarily strong, I think it just knocks people out of their bodies. It's kind of a woo thing to say that. Maybe let's use more clinical language. They disassociate so strongly they cannot associate again, because disassociation is an effort to leave the body. It's an effort to leave the present moment. Bang, out you go. Can you get back in? No, you can't, because the trauma was too strong. I will never feel again, is what some people say at a certain level. Eventually, she's a total recluse now. I haven't seen her for years, but she got a diagnosis of bipolar disorder. But I think it was drug-induced. The drugs that they had her on were so powerful that she would get really, really high, become super elated. I'd see her outside the house dancing around and singing, and then she gets super, super depressed. And they said, oh, that's bipolar disorder. And I'm like, yeah, or drug addiction, one of the two. So Given that this is something that is not good for us and definitely doesn't serve us, why would any of us remain codependent? To be codependent means to serve others, right? You ignore your own needs and you serve other people. What are the advantages of that? What does it advantage you to only live in service of other people? What's the advantage of perpetually finding yourself in abusive relationships? How many of you have been in more than one emotionally abusive relationship? Is that really? I've done 5. Jeez, you newbies, try harder. Use Tinder. Simple. Jeez. Yeah, so we do it again and again. But people are not stupid. We do illogical things, but I don't think that we are intrinsically unintelligent beings. So there's an advantage in everything. What are the advantages in serving others? Go ahead.
Avoiding our own issues, because it's easier to try to change or somebody else, or to just live the life that you have, or just...
Yeah, so avoiding our own issues. Avoiding issues. Avoiding, wait a second. I can't write and listen, I'm a man. Avoiding what? Narcissistic injuries.
Passing on responsibility onto someone else.
So are you avoiding passing on responsibility, or who said that? Was it you? Hello. The advantage is that you pass the responsibility to somebody else?
Well, in a way.
Yeah, okay, I dig it. You're avoiding responsibility. Anything else?
Pleasing people.
The advantage is that you get to please people.
Yeah. And you think that it will make your life easier at work or socially, but ultimately.
So you become very people-pleasing. The life and soul of the party, very entertaining, very thoughtful. Any other advantages to it?
Yeah, just add one thing.
Mm-hmm.
There is a book, perhaps one of the best books that I read. It's called Women Who Love Too Much.
Women Who Love Too Much.
I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if you've read it already.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about, I would say, that codependent type and all those things that we were speaking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty good.
Cool.
You know, it's really descriptive about it.
Awesome, awesome. Any other advantages to being a slave?
You might look meek, and the fawning response, it evokes that kind of thing like, oh, they're harmless.
So you could evoke sympathy.
Yeah, and I guess from an animal kind of perspective, you are not seen as a threat, or you want to appear that you're not a threat. You don't have to think for yourself.
Nice, I hate thinking for myself, damn. No self-thought. Thinking for yourself is hard, right? Thought, T-H-O-U-G-H-T. It's an English lesson now, thought. Phonetics is not great in English, really. That should be thought. But anyway, you have to live with it. So you get sympathy, you get pity, you don't have to think for yourself. What are the other advantages? Think about it. Think about it. In your life, how has it benefited you to live like a slave? Sorry? You keep the peace. Okay. What's the Serbian word for slave? Sorry? I just hear everybody going grog, 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 grog. Okay, one of you say it. Rob? Oh, that's all right. Rob. With r. Rob. Okay. So you keep the peace. Anything else that's advantageous? Yeah?
I think also has a thing with control, because sometimes it also makes us feel that we have the control.
You're saying that when I'm the innocent victim of an evil narcissist, that I'm looking to exert control? I think that's victim blaming, and I find it offensive. Control. Who are we controlling?
Well, it's complicated.
Everything. We're trying to control everything, right?
Yeah, but
So no ownership, right? Like you said yesterday, no extreme ownership. Everything happens to me.
So all of this is exactly that. It's an external locus of control. We never really have to grow up when we're like this. We avoid a tremendous burden of adulthood when we stay like this. Every single part of your life, your personality, your tastes, your political views, what you like to do for fun, what you avoid doing that you don't want to do, can all be explained with one narrative. And the narrative is, they did it to me. The reason that we're spending a bit of time on this now is because I'm going to come back to you and I'm going to ask you again, because you wouldn't do this if it wasn't advantageous. We all do this because it's advantageous. I want you to start changing the way you conceptualize yourself, relationships, and this whole issue. We do this because it benefits us, ultimately. That's a principle of Adlerian psychology. It's really tough. Say again?
Comfort in the moment.
It could offer you comfort in the moment. There's a comfort in the moment that comes specifically from the fake feeling that when you're in a fawn response, you're safer. You're safer. So yeah, you are comfort seeking because, but it is, again, it's like being an addict. Think of yourself as a drug addict.
All the time.
Every day. Brushing your teeth, putting your shoes on.
Thinking about my emotional issues.
Yeah.
I really feel like AA could help me.
Yeah, really. We should have I think there is a Codependence Anonymous in America. Of course, in America, there's everything. But yeah, I think they actually have that. What I don't want you to do, because we got into this yesterday, it's tricky territory because I am male. But some of our ideas about what it is to be a good woman, a good wife, or a good mother, fine. We all have to serve. We all have duties that are outside of us. Great. What I look at in my own life is what gives me pleasure, and should it? Be suspicious of the things that give you pleasure. Just watch. I want to do this. I want to make life easy. I'm like this with my clients. I'm like this with my business. I have to close this business. Did you know that? Do you know I have to close this? Because I'm in psychotherapy. Do you know who I'm speaking to right now? My mum. My mum. Isn't that fucked up? I came to Serbia to speak to my mum because my mother was the victim of a narcissistic psychopath. And my main age range for women is the ages that she was, for me, between 0 and 18. That's who I'm talking to. My mother at various stages of dealing with this. And she got these advantages. So I'm still inside of a codependent cycle. This is an act of codependency. I don't need to do this. But I feel compelled to do it. And I like doing it. Why? Why? Be careful of the things that give you pleasure. Not always, but sometimes it can be, it's the Freudian concept, repetition compulsion. Still trying to save your mum. Pretty sick, right?
Or chocolate.
Or chocolate. What the fuck? Is that like a Serbian expression? Or chocolate. What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean by chocolate?
Addictive thing.
Oh, addictive things. Yes. You could be addicted to serving people or chocolate. Or Serbian chocolate.
Why does it give me pleasure?
Why does it give me pleasure? I don't know.
Should it?
Should it? Yeah, but it does. So we have to look at the ways in which we are not such innocent victims. We are not, it's not just happening to us. Some of these are manifestations of things that we're trying to resolve from the past. Are you trying to get your mum to love you? Are you trying to get your dad to pay attention to you? I know it sounds all very corny, like the psychoanalysis movies from the 80s that people would take the piss out of, but it's real. These are things that are alive in us today. Do any of you feel like you've behaved irrationally inside of a relationship? Okay. So if it's not you consciously doing it, where's it coming from? It has to be the unconscious, and the unconscious, as we said yesterday, is yin, and it's the past. It's that which is not seen, and it's coming from the past, but it still motivates us, it still moves us. Anybody want to add anything to this? Another advantage from being a slave, from being rob. Rob.
I mean, that feeling of being good. Right?
A good person, virtuous.
I was
Virtuous.
glad that I didn't swear, because that's literally what bothers me, that kind of idea of being virtuous.
Being virtuous.
So you feel bad about yourself, and you're like, hey, this is what it feels like to be good.
Yeah, it's and it tends to be cheap, doesn't it? You can do it and you can end up with an awful lot of virtuousness signaling, just weak signals of how good you are. And why would we do that? Why would we signal that we're good? So I need to talk to you a little bit about narcissism and a little bit about codependency, and then I'm going to come back to this, because we have to have, I want you to think, I want you all to come up with something else. How does it advantage you to be a slave in your life? Where have you had perks, benefits from being slave-like and codependent in your own life? The formation of the narcissistic personality disorder typically, in my view, takes place between two polarities. One, well, they're both abuse, but one is the abuse of spoiling someone, and the other one is the abuse that we would typically associate with abuse. So, if we wanted to create a little narcissist, you would either have two parents at it, representing two polarities, or you'd have parents with dissociative identities that they would take on at various cycles. Perhaps they're on drugs, perhaps they have personality disorders themselves, whatever. So the child needs two messages. The messages both say the same thing. You are a bad object. You are not a human. You are not a human, you're a bad object. One of them, let's say we'll make it simple, we have two parents. One parent hits, kicks, and sexually assaults the child and says, you're useless, you're a piece of shit, you're the worst thing on earth. The other parent sees this and codependently tries to compensate guiltily by saying, you're wonderful, you're amazing, and everything you do is perfect. This one is saying you're a demon, nothing you do is good enough. This one is saying you're an angel, and everything you do is perfect. The problem is neither of these things is true. So we start with immense trauma, immense pressure, and delusion. Delusion, neither of these messages is true. If the child has a choice and they have a chance, they will choose the good, quote unquote, good message over the bad message. Here's where things get a little bit tricky. This is the formation of a narcissist. The good message can only come through adulation. The parent is never saying, I love you and I accept you as you are. They are saying you are exceptional and worthy of adulation and applause. So the love that is offered requires a third entity, which is why they become obsessed with their image, the reflection. It needs a mirror, so they need an audience. That's why you will have many exceptionally gifted children will end up with narcissistic personality disorder. They're amazing physicists, piano players, mathematicians, or they're beautiful or something that makes them incredibly special, so that the world agrees with this message, you are exceptional. The child then binds to that. They start wiring to that, and they become even better and better at the one thing in life that they can get that feels like love, but isn't love. It's a poor simulation of love, but they're bound to that for life. As they move forward and the abuse continues, because all of this is happening as the abuse is ongoing, spoiling children is abuse, as I'm sure you all know. Giving them messages that they're amazing is still abuse, because you're objectifying the child and instrumentalizing the child for your own selfish benefit. If you do that, that's to make you feel good, not to make the child healthy. So we all have to be careful when spoiling children, which is a natural impulse, of course. Over time, the pressure becomes so much and the pain becomes so much that they're not being loved, they have to find a defense. And so they attach to this fake good idea of themselves and use that as a shield. And then they build a hard shell around themselves where reality is kept out, all the abuse is kept out, and only the good data, the good feedback is kept in. They get good at that. It develops as a skill. The shell gets bigger and bigger, stronger and stronger, and on the inside of the shell is a mirror. Information gets in, but it's opaque, so they're not really very good at assessing reality, which is why narcissists are typically very impressionable and very infantile. When we're talking about narcissists as codependents, what do we do when we catch a narcissist? We have caught a damaged child. What are we recruiting them to do? What we cannot do for ourselves. The narcissist, as you now know, because you're watching all of my latest YouTube videos, including those with Sam Backman, right? They give us narcissistic supply. They grant us the permission to have narcissistic supply. And that's why it feels so good to be with them. That's why it's so addictive. And when they leave, we go into narcissistic depletion. Am I making sense so far? Okay. If I say anything and it just sounds a little wild, just tell me to stop. So that's your formation of the narcissistic personality disorder. The codependent, on the other, so that's, the narcissist then is the golden child. They would typically become, or try to become, the best, the supreme, the most high. They want adulation. Adulation goes from down to up. It's not horizontal. So to a narcissist, love is only adulation, and it goes from people below them up to them. That's how they understand love. You as a person who's not narcissistic, you will try and do love horizontally. You'll say, I love you, and you mean I love you as an equal. And they'll go, yeah, sure. But they only understand it this way. So they'll only do it vertically. The codependent is the ultimate prey. So if the narcissist is the ultimate predator, they have to be the best. We have to be the least. We are the least of everything. You may recognize some of that doctrine from Christian literature. We are the least of them. What do they say? The meek. The meek. So why? Because in terms of biology and survival, we're trying not to get eaten. So the signal that we're sending out is, don't bother eating me, I'm not a threat to anyone. I have no drives, I have no desires, I'm practically invisible. I'm like one of those ninjas in the kabuki theatre that wears all black and moves the furniture around so that the main actors can continue on with the play. You know, that's where the ninja idea comes from, the kabuki plays. We move the scenery so that real humans can be on stage. Real humans translates as narcissists. We only recognize narcissists that way. So there's people, and then there's real people. And to us, real people are narcissists. Everybody else is like a bit player. So we facilitate narcissism. We facilitate narcissism. We encourage narcissism. We want narcissism. We want to generate narcissistic supply. We want to offer narcissistic supply. Does this resonate with your experience? Yes. Damn. Not a single one of you is like, no, I didn't do that. You're like, yes, 1000%, that was me. Okay, good. I don't have to battle through that. Good. So what happens to us? We decide it is dangerous to be in the world. Well, we don't decide. That's not true. We experience a kind of abuse where we would probably just be told that we're trash. We're the black sheep. So we can't do right for doing wrong. Nothing you do is ever good enough. This leads to the perfectionism we were talking about last night. How, if you're in a family unit and you're the black sheep, how do you avoid getting eaten? You can't fight back. If you could, you would develop narcissism. Some people who drop into borderline personality disorder, they try narcissism first and it fails, so they collapse because it's smashed out of them. That means you have a parent who sees you trying it on and they beat that out of you. They just don't let that happen. So we can't run, we can't negotiate. You can try to fight back, that will get beaten out of you. So what's left? You all know your 4 Fs. What one did I not mention? Freeze. Freeze. Codependency is a massive freeze response. This is when a predator appears, you keep still because you hope that their eyesight is based on movement and that they might pick somebody else. So you just keep still as you can. The fawn response is there as well, where we trade parts of ourselves. So we freeze in place because you can't run, so we're disassociators. All codependents are terrible disassociators, and all codependents have shite memories. All of you have shit memories. Ha ha! I just like being abusive. I need to see my therapist again. It's been a couple of weeks. Yeah, we deserve it. Abusers more. Yay. That's not the only thing we're shit at. Come on. So the decision we make is like, I don't want to get eaten all the time because it hurts. So my idea is that what we do is we retract into yin. We retract into toxic yin. But this isn't like, oh, I'm withdrawing to a cave to meditate, or I'm withdrawing to a cave to retreat. This is a tomb. We entomb, you know that word in English, a tomb? There's a grave. It's a grave, yeah, but it's above ground, tomb. So we entomb ourselves. So imagine I'm outside the cave, I wake up every day, I get eaten. I don't like that, it hurts. So what I do is I put a false avatar of myself outside, like a scarecrow. What is that word in Serbian? One at a time. Strašilo. You put strašilo outside, and you let the strašilo get eaten instead, in the hopes that you will survive. So you put a fake version of yourself out to other people so that if they reject it, like Narcissists did to Echo, you won't get hurt because it wasn't you anyway. You can reject me, you can beat me, it doesn't make any difference. It's not even me. And that is where our split with reality starts. The narcissist split with reality is, I'm perfect, I'm godlike. It's a delusional personality disorder. Yes, they're assholes. Yes, they lie, but they live inside of delusion. So it'd be pretty hard for them to tell the truth the whole time because they have no fucking clue what's going on. They convince the rest of us that they're in control. But I suspect really with most NPDs, they're far less powerful than we perceive them as being. They're actually quite weak. They're actually in very, very fragile position. You can see that if you're not financially beholden to them, in love with them, or having sex with them. It's much, much easier to see. They're way easier to handle. So we then start to withdraw into the cave because sometimes the predator eats the strašilo. Sometimes it eats the strašilo, and sometimes it hears you and it comes inside the cave and eats you as well. You are reborn again the next day. You start to go deeper and deeper into the cave. You withdraw further and further back. You build a bigger strašilo. You put more effort into the scarecrow, hoping that the predator will only eat that. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. You shrink back into the cave. You go very, very small. You make yourself invisible. Then you find a crack in the wall and you climb inside. And you're dead. You're dead. There's only strašilo and you are disappeared. Anybody who walks into the cave and says, where are you? All they get is echo, 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 because that's all you offer. That's all any of us can offer. It's trippy, man. Seriously. I took acid when I was a kid. Sometimes when I'm talking, it's the echo thing, because when you take acid, everything echoes. Hang on, where am I? Belgrade. What the fuck am I doing here? Imagine just waking up from a coma going, I'm in Belgrade doing a seminar on codependency. Okay. So that's the situation that we're in. So then somebody like me or you know, like a life coach or a therapist comes along and is like, hey, you know, you need to get out there. What do you want? What do you want? What are your goals? And you go, I don't fucking know because I don't exist. I'm not here. So do you struggle to know what you want? Yeah, of course you do. Because you're not really here. You've never been given the permission to be. Most likely, this is dark, but we have to go there. Most likely, for some of you, not all of you, when you were a kid and you expressed your desires, if you had a narcissistic borderline parent, they would have taken that as a narcissistic injury. They'd have been like, this fucker's trying to individuate. You know what individuation is? Break away, become your own person. No, you don't. You don't leave me behind. And they start chopping bits off you. You're just a kid. You're programmed. You're like, hey, I'm going to go and explore. Chop. And then when you're 25, suddenly you don't know what you want to do with your life. You're 35, you're in a bad relationship, and somebody says, well, what kind of relationship do you want to be? And you're like, I don't know. I seem to be used to having boots shoved on my face and being used and abused and lied to. And that starts over time to feel like home because we didn't know anything else. Somebody else comes along and they try and show you normal love, it will be repellent, it will be disgusting. You're like, what is this? What is this love thing? I know abuse, I don't know what this love thing is. So there is something that we have to accept with what we're doing here. When I say something like, oh, we're going to do an overcoming codependency seminar, you're going to get back to your authentic self. We are raising the fucking dead. This is magic. This is magic. You are summoning yourself back into being. And I still don't know exactly how to do it. I can tell you that year on year, I get a little bit better, but that's it. That's it. I'm not sure how to do it. I can describe the mechanics of how it should be working in theory, but sometimes I make progress and I've not tracked it. It's really irritating because I can't give it to anybody because I'm a codependent. I'm like, oh, I'm better now. And my therapist is like, great, get on with your life. And I'm like, no, I need to, like, I can't verbalize that. And sometimes it's going to be that way. Sometimes it is just going to be that way. But there are some things we can do to begin. Any more advantages from being a slave? How is it advantageous for me to be a slave? Tell me.
It's comfortable.
It's comfortable. And we mentioned comfort before, right? So there's a word we should mention here, which is safety. So much of what we do at the biological and unconscious level, we do to feel safety. You think you're safe in the cave. Well, actually, you are safe in the cave. You are safe. You're just dead. It's really safe when you're dead. You're in the tomb, man. I mean, like, who's going to get you? Because you're not there. The rejections don't hurt. The abuse doesn't hurt, or it doesn't hurt as much because you're not really there. So, who said comfort just now? Who was that? You said comfortable, and then you said it's a feeling of comfort when you serve others, right? These are really sick signals. This is slave training. Excuse me, slave. This is slave training. We're trained to think that when we serve, then we are safe. That is fucked up. That's really sick. Really, really sick. Please be horrified by that because it's horrifying. Oh, I'm safe now because I'm serving. What? It's like, hello, human rights. Like, that's not normal.
But when you avoid the rage, then you are safe for that time, aren't you?
A little bit. But then we have to have a conversation about safety where we say, okay, safety is good, but being alive is good. And being alive is risk. So we're all the way inside the cave. What do we need to do? We need to get the fuck back out the cave. We've got to get the Summoning the Self course. That was what this whole thing was for. It was the sales pitch. Actually, my book is coming out next year. It's called Just an Echo. I spoke to the publishers today. So we've got to get back out of the cave. We've got to get back out into the light, and we have to start engaging in a yang way, which is really sad that I'm saying this at a point in human history where everybody's being told to stay at home because the outside world, this simulation fucking sucks. I did not sign up for this. Like, literally, I created that course, and then 3 months after the course was created, like, everybody has to stay. If you stay at home, you're a hero. I was like, great, that's just frigging fantastic. So we think we're safe, but our safety is the sweating, cowardly, golem-like, addictive safety of the slave. Somebody who's lived their entire life on a plantation who can't leave, even if you permit them to leave. They can't. They're terrified. They're terrified because everything they've ever known is do as your master says, or you'll be tortured or mutilated or killed. And the consequences to us as children were at that scale. Do you understand that? If your mother screams at you, that's the same level of stress as an adult undergoing, mutilation or whatever. It's that level of stress. Your body and your brain, when you're that young, you're not designed to deal with that. When we say stress, it's the same as when you think about like the mechanics of like a plane wing or something. The plane is designed, so okay, here's the difference between stress and trauma. When the plane goes through turbulence, the wings bend. That's stress. Trauma is when rivets start to pop and bits of the plane start falling off. We're traumatized. We're traumatized. So bits of us are twisted in that way. So we can't face similar situations. Why can't you leave your abusive husband? Because you're not allowed to leave. Mummy never let you leave. Daddy never let you leave. You're not allowed to say no. For some of us, that's an absolute taboo. Not in all situations, but in certain trigger situations, saying no is just totally verboten and haram. I want to ask you what you think are the disadvantages in becoming your authentic self. What would happen if you grew past this and you started to heal and become your authentic self? What's the horror?
You might be rejected.
You could be rejected, but you would be authentically rejected for being your authentic self. Let's see. Authentic rejection. What was the scarecrow? Strasciolo. So now it's not Strasciolo that's being rejected, it's me that's being rejected. So a disadvantage of growing beyond this and becoming your authentic self is actual rejection. But if you were your authentic self, do you think you'd be able to cope more with rejection? Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird? Like when we're not really ourselves, we're like a half person or a half dead person. What feedback we get from other people becomes critical. Did you hear me say that in the Sam Vaknin interview recently? I was talking to Sam and Sam was saying about the grieving process. What he said was, those of us who are stuck in the narcissistic abuse cycle and we grieve and grieve and grieve and never get out, is if you stop grieving, you cease to be, because there's no self there. It kills the shared fantasy. Isn't that sick? That's really sick. So, but if you were your authentic self, that would be one person rejecting you one time in one set of circumstances. In codependency, rejection is total rejection of everything you are across the universe, because it's boundaryless. Because codependents have no boundaries, the same way that narcissists have no boundaries. We're the mirror image of them. We're not their opposite. What is another disadvantage? Why would being your authentic self suck?
You
What?
have to take responsibility for your sovereignty. So you have
Right.
to kind of back it up and be like, this is who I am, these are my values. And when you start going down that path as a codependent, you actually find yourself regurgitating other people's values. So you kind of go, oh, I'll stay here because I want to...
Because you're an echo. You're echoing other people's values.
You wouldn't feel accepted.
You wouldn't feel accepted? That's crazy, isn't it? Who's accepting you when you're a codependent?
yourself. Like the way you kind of tend yourself.
So okay, this is interesting. So what you are suggesting is, if I stay codependent, I'm still acceptable to me.
Yeah.
But if I'm an authentic adult human being, that I'm no longer acceptable to me. Is that what you're saying?
It's scary.
Yeah, it's scary. It's more, yeah.
I
Not
like-
accepted for others.
It's what?
Not accepted to others.
Not accepted by others? You have no idea whether you'll be accepted by others or not, do you? So the codependent is trying to preempt the acceptance or lack of acceptance of others. We are controlling as fuck. We're really fighting so hard not to hear that no, which is why we're always giving the tea and biscuits out. Metaphorically sometimes, or literally. Tea and biscuits. Isn't that a very British way? Shall we have tea and biscuits, darling? Oh, yes. We'll cut that. So we have rejection, responsibility. I like this idea that you've suggested, that I'm only acceptable to myself when I'm a slave. Pia Melody, there's a quote that comes up later in this PowerPoint. She said, the codependent becomes allergic to their own selves. So we're actually allergic to ourselves. Isn't that crazy? Your own wants, your own drives, your own needs, you have a physical allergic response. So if you do like a life coaching seminar and we're like, hey, we'll set some goals, we'll do some relationship goals, some life goals, you'll start flashbacking. You'll be like, I can't, me? Like, huh, what if mother finds out? Or, you know, it goes that way. So if I'm authentic, I could be really rejected. I'd have to be responsible. I'd have to back it up. So are you saying that if I'm a codependent, I'm allowed to get away with more bullshit? I'm allowed to be, yeah? I can live more fakely?
In a way, you kind of just, you're used to it, so it's a habit.
Okay.
It's
All
familiar
of it's
to you.
saved though, isn't it?
Joy? It's just a morass of voices now. I'm still trying to process. So hang on, wait a second, because this is new for me. What did you just say?
That you're used to it, so it's a good habit.
Okay, because whatever you say that's useful, I'm going to take it and use it and not credit you. It's like, that's why we're here. We're brainstorming this so that I can.
Biscuit, it's your tea.
It's my tea. It's my. Sorry. No, seriously, you said something that made me think.
That you tame yourself so well.
Okay.
You become your own tamer.
Okay. Yes.
So every time you try and be a lion, there's
Yeah.
someone inside you going, hey, you know you don't look authentic doing that.
So okay, I'm digging it, but I haven't thought about it before. So being a codependent is fundamentally fake. So then when we're being fake, we're comfortable because we're fake.
When you feel yourself becoming authentic, because there must have been moments in your life where you have been authentic.
Okay,
You
so
go, ooh, that's that.
so we're cowardly, addicted, manipulative fakes. Love it. That's great. Well, I wrote the word authentic, and I didn't think of the opposite. I didn't think I don't think of codependency as fakeness. I always thought of it as like avoidant. You have the
I
avatar,
think it's less
but it is.
malicious, but for me, in my experience, it's like a reflex reaction.
No, don't take it back. You're right. We're fakes. No, you are right. Like the original suggestion that we're fakes is correct. So if I'm authentic, if I was a con artist, now I can get caught.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So it's yourself catching you. and going,
Okay, so we're back to not safety. The opposite of safety is danger. There we go. So now I'm in danger. You mentioned imposter syndrome yesterday, didn't you? Yeah, and we decided it was probably perfectionism, but the sense of being an imposter is fundamental then to codependency, because we are imposters. We're pretending to be really, really nice and giving, whilst hoping to get what we want through reciprocation, and then if it doesn't arrive, then we're angry and bitter and resentful. Oh, we're wonderful people, wonderful, wonderful. Just give me two more of these, like another 2 disadvantages in becoming my authentic self. What stops me? Yes.
I think it's we are not good enough, and that's the main thing. I think all of these things are just circling around.
I'm not good
I'm
enough.
not good enough.
So I don't deserve to be authentic.
You were meant to jump through hoops, weren't you? You know, and the goalposts kept getting moved, so how can you possibly know who you are?
Sorry, so I got confused with my spelling again. Why do we do this O-U-G-H? Why is that enough? It should be enoch. Anyway, sorry, go on.
What did I say?
Welcome to my world. Listen, I don't just think that we live like that different realities exist. I think that we live them at the same time. And I slip into different ones. And I'm in a different place. Yeah, slip into... Are you making that dirty? Really? Okay, forget it. All right.
I was saying if you're made to jump through hoops.
Oh, yeah.
The goalposts are always moved, so you don't, you try and be the most appeasing as you can.
Yes.
To not have those goalposts moved and jump through.
Yes. There's a lot here. I'm learning so much. Yeah, I do. I need to lie down in a dark room and think about what I've done. Yeah. I tell you what would be a good idea at this point. Let us take a 5-minute break while I just process that. And we'll start again in 5 minutes, yeah? I think the toilets are there. There's some water here. There you go. Yeah, does anybody else have any questions on anything we covered in the last section? You don't want to question any of that mad drivel I just came out with? I'm very impressed. I was just thinking, it just occurred to me, Jung was never going to do psychoanalysis. Jung really wanted to be an archaeologist. He wanted to be a tomb raider. He wanted to get inside of tombs and raid crypts. And in a way with psychoanalysis, he did end up fulfilling that idea. He did go into the past and explore the symbols and the signs and the trauma that's left behind from previous generations. It's interesting to me when I think about how occult psychology is. When you study the occult just means stuff which is hidden, but there's a kind of magic and mystical element to that process. And yeah, Jung wanted to be an archaeologist first. Because we were talking about tombs and crypts, I was just sat here thinking about it. So everything that I said in the last session, 90% made sense. If it's 90%, I'm happy. Good enough is good enough, right? There's no need to be a perfectionist. So, before I move on to the next section, which becomes more prescriptive, because you now understand the mechanics of where you're up to and the mechanics of codependency as I'm defining it, yeah? And you can see why that would be quite difficult to reverse, I'm sure. Somebody who's chosen a kind of a living death as a means of protecting themselves, as opposed to the risk, the responsibility, the danger, the courage that would be required in being an authentic self. I've been in psychotherapy again recently, and one of the recurrent themes that I've found whenever any progress is made is that we have to feel safe in order to move forward. So if you're taking notes or you're doing notes on your phone or whatever, and you want to remember stuff from tonight that you can actually use, Remember that if you want to move forward in recovering from codependency, you must consider the ways in which you can do that and still feel safe. If you don't feel safe, you won't do it. End of. It doesn't matter how complicated the ideas or how extravagant the explanations are. If you don't feel safe, your unconscious will switch it off. You'll get excited about something for about 2 days, you get a big peak and then it drops off. You've already lived that, right? You're like, this is going to be the thing that changes me. 2 days later, it's gone. You must feel safe. The second thing is permission. In a weird way, we have inside of us parents, like we have us as parents, we have our parents, we have our parents' parents inside of us. You could take that like as a mystical, claim, or you can take it as a psychoanalytic claim. Transactional analysis actually uses this. So they'll say inside of you, you have your parents' ego injunctions, but they have their parents' ego injunctions, and they still run through you. So your grandparents and your great-grandparents' messaging is running inside of your mind. Your great-grandparents lived in a different world. Our great-great-grandparents lived in a crazily different world, but their messages are still influencing the way you think today. So you have different parts of you that are functioning. If you want to cease to be codependent, I haven't done this, but I imagine part of that is granting ourselves the permission to be our authentic selves. Does that make sense? It sounds so simple, but you would have to do it every day, possibly every hour, possibly several times an hour. And I don't know, I would have to follow you around and be like, remember to give yourself permission. Is there an app for that? We should design an app for that. Well, sorry, I ordered this protein. And I said, I want cherry flavors. And they literally chopped cherries with the stones in. I mean, I'm glad that these are real Serbian cherries down from the mountains. I expected fucking cherry flavor. Stones in my mouth. Anyway, that's very important to overcoming codependency. What was your question?
The hand mnemonics.
Oh, yeah. So we're going to do another 30-day challenge soon. And I really want to focus on overcoming codependency. And I think the hand mnemonic, there will be a new hand mnemonic for this, where it will be 5 times a day, if not more, reminding ourselves of what we need to do in terms of granting the permission to be your authentic self. Why? Because for codependency to get entrained into you, here's a timeline I draw with my fingers. This is you born, and this is you up to the age of 8. And imagine you're inside this timeline and you're living and you're growing and you're playing and you're falling down and you're crying and pooping yourself and whatever. And then you grow up. The entire time that that's happening, people are in your environment giving you messages. All people, all messages get internalized. They're called superego injunctions, but it's the voice that runs inside your head. You're stupid, don't do that, put that down, don't put that in your mouth, blah, 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 blah. You're a fucking idiot. Blah. Whether you're, even the way you're treated, not just the words, but the way you're treated. Are you treated kindly? That becomes a superego injunction. Are you treated with contempt? That becomes a superego injunction. So there was a top-down authority that imprinted an idea on you over the first 8 years of your life, when your brain is at its peak neuroplasticity. So then we, as adults, in our own awkward way, have to come back in and do a reparenting and undo those messages. Yes, you do have the right to ask for what you want. And then the inner child is going to be like, but mummy said no. And it will be powerful. It will be a strong injunction that says, but mummy said no. And you have to go, no, mummy's not here now. And anyway, she's a silly bitch. I just felt bad saying that about my mum. My mum might watch this. Sorry, mum. You're not. You're boss. Mother. So that's what we have to do, and we'll be in a battle. So the permission has to be granted. It's safe for you to want what you want. I grant you permission to want what you want. If you're taking notes, write that down. It is safe for you to want what you want. I grant you permission to be who you are. It's going to be a kind of brainwashing process, because that's what it was in the beginning. We have to recondition the way we think in a totally new way that breaks a series of taboos that we lived with from the day we were born. That's heavy, man. That's a big breath of, my God, the weight of this karmic burden. But if we can, we'll be looking at a way of breaking intergenerational trauma at root. If we break intergenerational trauma at root, we can consciously evolve as a species. So that's what this seminar is about. Cherry protein shakes and consciously evolving as a series. You have a question? I will answer it.
When you say we have to feel free, safe.
Safe.
Sorry. Can you explain a little bit more in what you mean with safe? From
Yeah.
what? From who?
Well, it's more a case, there isn't like a real threat. It's probably a mother, father, maybe school. So in your childhood, there was danger, there was risk.
Something from the
It's
past,
not,
from the narcissist.
not now,
Uh-huh.
not now.
No.
What keeps you with the narcissist in the present, not that you're with a narcissist, I don't know, but what keeps you with the narcissist in the present is your emotional flashbacks, which is your past. It's in the tomb, it's in the crypt. It's long dead stuff, but the hieroglyphics have this magical binding quality, and it keeps the magic alive today. I cannot go over there. Why? There's nothing over there. Well, I wasn't allowed to go over there before. Mum used to hit me when I went over. Well, my father used to scream at me when I went over there. So I'll never go over there ever again. We're like this. That the blessing and the curse. Human beings are different from other animals because of our memory and our imagination. So we imagine there must be danger over there. If we were dogs, we'd forget. You know, the master told me that like 6 minutes ago. I don't remember it 6 minutes ago. Fuck it. I'm not. But we remember, especially if the trauma was strong enough. So there are certain things we don't do and certain things we do. So the safety is more of a sort of a fake dread of something that isn't there. When I say what keeps you with an emotionally abusive person in your adulthood is your past, if that past wasn't there, you wouldn't be attracted to them. You wouldn't think that was sexy or fun. You would have told them, I know I swear a lot, but you just must live with it. You would have told them to fuck off very early on. Instead of going, oh wow, this is, it's interesting. Maybe I can change him. That's what I think with every new man. So, it's that time of night. It's past 8 o'clock, right? So, this is the past. We're stuck in the past, but bound. We're bound in the past, and this is where we feel safe. It's not that we really are safe. The tomb is death. Of course, outside is risk. Like if I say to you, go out and be your authentic self, but everything that is yang is risk. Everything that leaves the home is risky. Everything that you want, that is good, that is great, that is out there, will potentially break your heart or hurt you or leave you with scars. Do you see how, can you see how we've developed a sort of a culture that leans away from all that? Like we don't want scars. We don't want to go out and get hurt. We've become very risk averse. Think about how tough we used to be. Think about how vicious the punishments against us used to be. Because we were like, they would have to torture you in 400 years ago to get you to say the right words in a religious context. You'd be like, I'm saying this. And we'll pull your fingernails out. You go on then. What would it take now? You'd be like, I'll take your phone off you. Oh God, no, I'll say whatever you want. We're so weak. You know, I look at like the stuff that used to happen in England to repress the rebellions in England. And I'm like, damn, these must have been really tough people because we're soft, we're risk averse. And it's to our detriment. It really is to our detriment. All of this is resolved fundamentally with courage. We haven't said that yet, but with courage. That's an Adlerian principle. Adler, beautiful therapy. Courage, courage, courage. It's going to suck, but this sucks more. You already did this. This experiment is run. It's run. Everything that is inside the cave, you already explored every single inch of this prison cell. The only good stuff now can be outside. And that takes courage, tremendous courage. So to answer your question, yes, we would have to do like a daily reminder that like we
It helped, it really helped.
did it, yeah?
Yeah,
Good,
yeah.
good, fantastic.
Back to centre.
Yeah, yeah. Brainwashing people is what I do. This is I said the cult starts in Serbia. This is how we start it. So remember, you must grant yourself the permission. Think of it that way. Use those words. I'm granting myself the permission to be authentic. I'm granting myself the permission to put myself first. You can't just serve for the rest. Well, you can serve for the rest of your life, but you'll die never having lived. And that would be fucking tragic. So we're going to get to the exercises here. The root of all codependency is rejection of the self. So I know how woo and trite this sounds if I say you have to accept yourself and love yourself, which is why I said everything I said in the first hour. Your job is to counteract the brainwashing that you've already had. Your brainwashing is rejection of self. I can't want anything. I'm not good enough to want anything. It's not permitted for me to want anything. We have to counteract that brainwashing with total acceptance of the self. Everything, all of it, for now. Every part of you, if stuff that you think is ugly or annoying or gross or angry, or accept all of it, because it's the rejection of the self that's keeping us sick, that's keeping us codependent. Whatever it is that is within you, whatever it is that you want to do, accept it. Just accept it. Let it be what it is. Maybe it needs changing. Sure, like nobody's perfect, but accept, accept, accept. And love the self. Know that there's a self in there. It's stuck in the back of the cave wall, remember? You can't bully it out. You can't scream at it. There's no drill sergeant that's going to be like, okay, soldier, it's time to get out the fucking wall and stop being invisible. That won't work. That will drive it further in. Only love will allow you to summon it back out. Acceptance and love, because it's, who is it? It's 3 years old, and it's scared, and it can hide, and it will.
What about forgiveness? I find it impossible to forgive myself for doing something or making.
You must never forgive yourself. You are a terrible, terrible, sinful girl.
It's a funny thing, right? Because in Christian culture, forgiveness is an actual concept. In our culture of safetyism, forgiveness and political correctness and all that, it doesn't exist in political correctness. You can't be forgiven if you've made a mistake.
You are perpetually filthy with your sin unto death,
But
which
in
is correct.
Christianity, there is that concept of forgiveness, which is all accepting.
Forgiveness, absolution, cleansing, purification. That which was dirty can be made whole. That which was wrong or sinful can be made pure again. Yeah, there's because it's not a death cult, whereas the kind of political correctness, woke nonsense that you're talking about that hasn't infected Serbia yet, but will if we're not careful, is a death cult. It's anti, to the extent that it's anti-life. It's anti-life. All of these political correctness, woke talking points are rooted in death. It's a desire to crush life. Differences, individuals, competition, that's life. I don't like it. Who gives a fuck whether you like it?
Equality of outcome.
Yeah, equality of outcome, yes. Don't mention the C word. Communism.
No, I did it yesterday.
Communism. Yeah, we don't, you know, it's not realistic. It's not, and it's not life. And it fits hand in glove with safetyism because it unifies everything by rendering everything flat and dead. So the ultimate equality is death. It's perfect equality when we're all dead and in the tomb. Everything else is unfair, is competitive, is annoying, is loud, is hard. And that's life. It's risk. So yes, being risk averse does lead to that state. So practice self-acceptance, love the self, love the self. You've not probably had that. So it's going to be difficult because you're not allowed to love yourself. So if the thought comes up, I'm not allowed to love myself, what will you do?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, God damn you. Remember what I said before about permission? Grant yourself the permission. Say the words inside your head, I'm granting myself permission to show myself love. It will be fake and awkward and weird at first. Of course it will. It's going to take a long time. It's going to take a long time. I'm an optimist. If I think things can be done quickly, I'll tell you. The CPTSD recovery can be done within months. This, I don't think can be done within months. I think it's going to take time, unless we use psychedelics, which is why there's a brew outside. Look, guys, trust me. Listen, it's fine. It's got cherries in it. They get stuck in your teeth, but the world echoes. It's beautiful. I mean, it might be that, you know, like that level of neuroplasticity that we need. If not psychedelics, ultimately we probably will have to move beyond psychology. And you'd say, oh, okay, we'll do philosophy. Yes, you'll do philosophy, but ultimately you have to move beyond that as well. You're gonna need this rooted in some kind of religious or spiritual system, whatever works for you. Because it's transcendent and it's universal. It's in the core of you. It's throughout everything that's within you. Psychology and philosophy won't touch that. Spirituality and religion can. I'm not a priest, so I don't know what's going to work for you, but I would advocate exploring that. And that's where universal love and universal acceptance comes from. It can only come. Like, all love on earth between mortals has to be conditional and transactional because we have egos. It's the nature of it. The only time it's not is a mother's love for a child. And then once you've broken that, you've individuated from that, it becomes conditional. And you know it. Your mum tells you she loves you no matter what, but come on. It's not usually the case. So only religion really does that. Don't shy away from it. Religion's done terrible things, but that's because people tell lies. They do. They lie. They're still telling lies. Terrible, terrible lies. But all of it, at its core, when people live religion, we call that mysticism. When people talk religion and do something else, we call that dogma. People who are mystics, who go into the inn, who go off into the woods and into the caves, they always say the same stuff, right? We're all one being, everything's okay, it's all eternal. They don't fight each other and tear each other's fingernails out. That's always about gaining property, by the way. Did you know that? The Inquisition, Catholic Church took everything from anybody who was denounced. Fucking mafia, mate, telling you, still at it to this day. So, there's another exercise I want you to engage in. There's a quote from Pierre Melody. A love addict with insufficiently treated codependence, a lack of love of the self, is virtually unable to recognize the dynamics of love addiction or to abstain from the addictive parts of the relationship and endure the withdrawal process. She didn't mention anything about narcissism there. But do you see the resonance with what I said about narcissistic abuse? The narcissistic abuse addict, the withdrawal process, I would say that's literally withdrawal from narcissistic supply. We go into narcissistic depletion. If you've been in a relationship with a narcissist, you've tasted real narcissism. You have been a narcissist for that period of time. Wonderful, isn't it? That's why it felt so delicious. This exercise is a little bit more practical. If you want to do it, what my recommendation is that you actually list when and with whom, under what circumstances you are particularly triggered into a fawn response and into being codependent. It could be at work, it could be with family members, most likely it will be around romantic love because that's you trying to get back to the womb. That's all of us trying to get back to the womb. We only have, once we get away from mother, we have religion and lovers. That's it. That's it. That's the only way you're going to get back to that oceanic Osho experience of being subsumed within love. Or psychedelics. Listen, guys. We just have to accept the facts, right? So the ayahuasca retreats, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here in Belgrade. So figuring out when and where we're triggered is really, really critical. It's going to be slow work, right? You've got to take the route that's over there and then take the route that's like when I talk to my father over the phone, this is what happens. When I talk to my boss, this is what happens. Work on it, work on it, work on it. You've got to graft. This is going to take a lot of reps to do. And the other thing you would want to ask when you've identified when and with whom you're triggered into a fawning codependent response, ask yourself, what other options do I have to get what I want? Because you're trying to get something. We're all trying to get something through this fawning codependent response. You think you don't. There's the false ideology. The fantasy self is like, no, I'm just a good Buddhist and I just serve people. No, what are you trying to get done? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to be seen? Are you trying to get a promotion? Is it, romantic involved? What are you really doing? That takes honesty. You have to be honest with yourself for these exercises to work. I have an affirmation for you. I will give it to you now. Dearly beloved. So the affirmation that I wrote, I was taking a walk today, and I was like, well, what do you need to say to yourself in order to bring yourself back to yourself in a way that makes sense? And you have to acknowledge the cost and the benefit in order for these things to work. So I wrote it this way. I'm going to say it if you're writing it down or taking notes on your phone. I have a responsibility to myself to grow up and embrace a more honest way of being, and to put myself first. Cost is, I know I will lose my comfortable habit of hiding, but I will gain the prize of truly living as myself. Do you get that? So this is what you would need to say to yourself, and you'd need to say it a couple of times a day. I have a responsibility. It's not an option. This isn't fun. This is duty to the people around you. I know that works for you as leverage because you're codependent. You have a duty of care to the people around you and to yourself to grow up, because this is an adulting exercise. We're remaining emotionally immature when we're codependent. We're trying to remain as kids and embrace a more honest way of being, because codependency is a dishonest way of being, and to put myself first. Come on, some of you must hate that. Narcissist, there you go. I knew someone would say it. You must put yourself first. Put yourself first. Like they say about the oxygen masks, your mask goes on first. Try and do it for other people, you get knocked out. Your mask goes on first. If you want to serve other people, you serve yourself first. You must. You must. Ty musisz. Is that right? Slovakian. Slovakian. I'm Polish. How do you say you must listen in Polish?
Słuchaj mnie, that's listen to me. Słuchaj mnie.
Słuchaj mnie. What is it in Serbian? You must? Ty moraš. Moraš. Ty moraš. Good. I just wanted to say that to a room full of women and get it on camera. Ty moraš. Boris, help me. Every time you say this affirmation, you have to commit to an action. It's not enough to just say the words. You have to actually do something. And on that day, at that time, you have to say, this is how I'm going to put myself first. Again and again and again and again. The affirmation on its own is not going to do it. Your brain needs reference experiences to build new neural pathways. Reference experiences. So to say this another way, the unconscious needs to see you doing something new, because we respond well to symbolic gestures. That's why magic exists, why theatre exists, and archetypes exist. You must do it. And then you'll watch yourself do it, and you'll go, what the fuck are we doing? What is this? We're putting ourselves first. We can't do that, but I'm granting myself permission to put myself first. Why? Because I have a responsibility to myself and to other people to grow up. This is a new thing we're doing now. You've got to negotiate with yourself and all your many parts like a schizophrenic. Welcome to psychology. Does that make sense? The affirmation and the action and putting yourself first. This is an example of healthy narcissism. We all have latent narcissism. You're supposed to have narcissism inside of you. This is healthy narcissism. You must engage in it. Otherwise, you'll remain a codependent forevermore. How are we doing for time? Good. I can now take questions about anything I've said at any point. Please feel free. Oh, sorry, you're putting your hands up. Wow, that's so polite. Wow. Yeah, good, because you're all shouting and then you're talking at each other, and I was confused. Yeah, go ahead.
In terms of making it memorable, so bodily memory.
Yeah.
The thing that I've tried to do, I did it for about a month. Cold showers, the Wim Hof method.
Yeah.
And for me, I know this sounds funny, but for me, because we were talking about the feminine, for me, I just said to myself, I'm going to be like in the military, and it really worked. It was like it's a military routine. You wake up at 6, you run the 6K, you come back, you have a cold shower, you shut up.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds really brutal.
Not
but
really.
It does work because it's like a way of just switching off the chatter, the
Yeah.
energetic.
Yeah.
Because you're busy doing all these things which are painful. They're not.
It only sounds brutal to modern culture. I mean, think about the centuries of people just waking up at 5 in the morning, getting the milk, or going out and putting the wood in for the fire because otherwise you're going to freeze. We do stuff that sucks. We're really good at that.
Yeah.
But we're the victims of our own success. We live in these cities of lights, there's warmth, there's heat, there's too many calories in the environment. And we're dying from that. It's not figurative, it's physically killing us. We have too much stuff and we're breaking under the weight of it. And it's splitting us away from ourselves. So yeah, I think that's great.
Something that I heard Joe Rogan say, he said, make your own struggles. Create your own struggles so you don't end up.
Isn't it great to live in the West? Make your own struggles, because we have fuck all. There's child soldiers in the Congo like, what the fuck are these people doing?
It's perverse, I agree. It's completely perverse, but it kind of shows, yeah, you're right, it's perverse that we have to create these new ways of understanding ourselves.
And it makes life better, right?
Yeah.
Because from Joe Rogan to Jocko Willink, discipline is freedom.
Yeah.
Total lack of discipline is misery. It's such a trap. It's such a prison. Certainly, I like it.
You leave university and you're like, yeah, now I don't have to subscribe to any kind of discipline. I think that's the problem in Western culture. We lose that, lose touch with healthy discipline.
Absolutely. People become discipline averse.
So you say a cold shower could be a form of this kind of affirmation?
Yeah, it could be, yeah. Well, it's a great symbolic gesture. All of your body, it's 6:30 in the morning or whenever you get up to do your 6K, will be like, why the fuck are we doing this? Because I have a responsibility to become my authentic self. So yeah, absolutely.
And if you do things like that as well, you have less time to ruminate and worry.
That's the thing, less bullshit, less inner critic dialogue.
Yeah, and especially like, you can hear that dialogue going on and just get
And it's
out.
annoying after a while, because it's like the freezing showers, it just shuts up. Because there's no kind of like, you're not kind of being self-indulgent.
Yeah.
You can't. Yeah.
But that also has biological on a molecular level.
Yeah.
It has the physiology, different neurotransmitters are different.
Yeah.
So
The way the body reacts.
yeah, the hormones, everything. So it's not just
Psychology. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, psychology is neurology. Yeah.
physiological.
But I was trying to do that and I felt like it was only substitute.
Okay.
It is like
Substitute
okay, I
for?
was very, very disciplined for 6 years and
Nothing changed. So you were disciplined in
that was my addiction.
in a codependent way. So it is possible to be disciplined in a
Yoga
codependent
and
way.
all that, New Age.
Yes.
I want to thank you because I tried your exercise.
Sorry, 1 second. You're talking really loud. Like super, super loud. Don't even whisper. Yes.
I tried your exercise, very successful, I think 2 years ago.
Which one?
With this one.
Oh, yeah. The hand mnemonic one, yeah?
I don't know how you call it.
Yeah, the hand one.
Yes, but is it regarding codependency or?
No, that one was for your emotional flashbacks.
Yes, but it is very successful. I had a very tough situation in my life, and I felt not very sure how I will go on with that situation in business, and it lasted a couple of months, and I need something, some support, and I went to a channel, and I was very happy to find it, and I felt a little bit stupid at the beginning.
Good.
First days.
It's very important part of the healing process.
Oh, this is so silly.
Mm.
But I went on, and after a few days, it became very, very good, and I did it for almost 2 months.
I think in a way that there is an element of it that helps you to overcome codependency, though it wasn't what it was designed for, One is that codependency is rooted in the emotional flashbacks, but also when you do that, you're showing up for yourself. So you're there and you're present for your own needs.
Very, very strong.
Good.
And I managed that situation very good.
Mm.
And I was talking some my people how it's very, very, very good.
Mm.
And I think I will go again to that if I get into some trouble.
Good. Good.
I feel very strong when I feel yin.
Yeah.
And yin during that minute.
Mm-hmm.
But during the day I feel yang. I will do that. I
Yeah.
want to do this.
Yeah. If we want more yang, we have to go into more yin. If we want more yin, we have to go into more yang. That's the way of it. It just balances itself out. So that's good. Really, really good. I'm glad to hear that. I'll put one together that is specific for codependency, but that should help as well, just because, again, it's you with you. You're showing up for yourself. Codependency fundamentally is dependency. So we're still attaching to other people and other things to feel okay. When we are independent, what you're doing is practicing independency. That's a healing from that. There's a hand went up over there. Yes?
This was a bit tough to ask. I can't pretend it's not me asking. So,
I'll pretend it's not you asking. I'll pretend for you.
I have a friend.
yeah, how to deal with childhood sexual abuse? I feel like because I didn't come from family,
Mm.
but I still feel like my family set me up for it.
Yeah.
Kind of made me afraid
Yeah.
to people.
Mm-hmm.
So how do I deal with it? Can I ever? I feel like I can't in my life feel, which is something so deep and feels so natural,
Mm.
such as sexual attraction.
Mm.
I feel like I can't feel it towards a normal person.
Yeah.
Only towards a narcissist, or only towards someone who's boundary breaking, towards
And
someone
predatory.
who's
Mm.
exploitative.
Yeah. Had the same experience. I think therapy with somebody who really understands it
Hard
helps.
to find.
Yeah, super hard
Almost
to find.
impossible. In
Wait,
Serbia, I've had some really, really shitty.
You speak English, and so there is the option to speak to therapists via Zoom or via Skype. So if you can find somebody to talk to it about, that would help. The thing is with it is, as you've already identified, is it leaves scars and it leaves tendencies. So because it's such an extreme experience for a child to go through, such a boundary breaking experience, and children, like all of us are association building machines, but when we're children, we're building associations much, much faster and much more intensely. And it creates a mess of associations that then need to be untangled, or untangled to the best of our abilities. One of the good places to start with is the shame that goes with it, because shame is such an oppressive, painful emotion to feel somatically that it creates dissociation and then leads back to codependency again. But if you can find somebody, and I do know a guy who's pretty good. But I can recommend a guy. He's Scottish, but we won't hold that against him. Still a good man, despite being Scottish, and he's really, really good. And this is his thing. This is what he does, and he's very blunt and down to earth, matter of fact. He's been through it. He's helped thousands of people with it, and he really, really helped me. So I can recommend him. So talking to somebody who understands it helps. Keeping it inside is natural, because like if you say that to somebody, they're going to be freaked out.
Yeah.
It really freaks people. Yeah,
Silent.
well, it freaks people. It's horrible, but it's because obviously that's a biological instinct, is to protect children. So the idea of it is so taboo. Like people obviously they stiffen up with it. But there's stuff that you can do, and it's not a death sentence. Like, it's a thing that has happened. It's changed you. It's not like being honest with you, like you're going to go back to a place where it never happened. That is part of your story now. It's part of who you are. But can you recover to the point where you're comfortable in the areas you mentioned? Yeah, you can. You definitely can.
But I kind of ran an experiment with myself. I tried to avoid narcissistic people, and I have been successful for the past 3 or 4 years.
Mm.
However, I got into a relationship with someone who is a bit selfish and kind of has narcissistic traits, but I don't think his personality disorder. I feel like I've kind of conned into the relationship because I don't feel the same intensity that I feel towards a narcissistic person. I feel like I've lied to him during the entire relationship, like I've faked it, and it's a bit cruel, I think, on my behalf to do that. So, should I? What do I do? Do I try to avoid people for the time being, or?
How would you formulate that into a question?
I feel put on the spot.
Yeah, do you want a minute? I'll come back to you and then you can formulate a question. Yeah. You had a moment like that last night, didn't you? Right at the very end. It's like, here are some ideas that are interesting. I was like, there's a doctoral thesis in there. Do you have a question? No. Just sharing with you. Oh, okay. Any other questions? Yep.
So, if you could recognise codependency in a child, what would be a good way to help them with that instead of going, oh, you're codependent, let's go this way?
So children do what we do, they don't do what we say.
Okay, so I'm thinking about fostering.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not, they've already come from the background.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just again, lead by example.
Must. With kids. And when we say kids, I mean right the way up till 19. And every year that goes by, older and older. Like kids are more emotionally immature. I know I sound like an old dude, like, oh, these millennials, these fucking but they really are. Like the vulnerability goes up every year. Not being listened to is an issue. Not being led is the bigger issue. So sometimes we talk like cultural issues. We're in an intimacy averse culture. We're in a leadership averse culture. And people need to be fucking led. They're desperate to be led. Children especially. Children love it. It's like, this is what we're doing because this is what works. These are the rules. You can give them responsibility. If you want them to be responsible, you give them responsibility, but lead them. You are their leader. You're their mentor. You're their protector. And whatever you're doing, how you handle yourself, they copy. They're little copycats, but they copy everything. I mean, I see this with my sister's kids. They copy everything. That's why I have to stop swearing when I'm around. So it comes out their mouths, and I'm like, where did you learn that? Oh, yes, Uncle Richard said it 2 minutes ago. Naughty Uncle Richard. So yeah, they'll do what you do. And that's really your power. So if you want them in a better mood, you go first. If you want to concentrate, you go first. Everything is you first, you first, you first.
And ignore the kickbacks. Because,
Of course.
yeah.
What, the crying and the complaint? Of course. Of course you're crying. It is hard. It is supposed to be hard. I think like there is, I mean, seriously, as far as codependency goes, when it comes to kids and relationships with people who are abusive, I should put a slide on this. We have to accept the fact that other people are going to suffer. We have to accept the fact that other people are going to suffer. We're not gods. People suffer. There's nothing we can do about it. Literally nothing. They're supposed to. The world's not broken. We're not broken. They're not broken. People suffer. Don't try to, if you can help, help. But be careful with that help. Be careful with help. Charity holds the seed of poison inside of it. It really does. You can stunt their growth. You can build resentment inside of them. It's not natural. It's not natural. In the Liverpool seminar, I told this story. It's one of the things I'm proud of doing. When I was young and I was a self-defense instructor. One of my first students was, I was 21, he was 21, and he was a holiday rep, and he had a boyfriend who was beating him up. The boyfriend was like 43, something like that. So we had this choice, which was like, okay, I know the boyfriend, I can go and punch him so he doesn't punch you. Or we can spend some time together in the gym and I can train you so that if he does, because he would do it when he was drunk. And the next time he gets drunk and he does it, you do it back. Which would you prefer? So I trained Alex, and the next time he tried it on, punched him out in the street. I was made up, I was delighted. That's a proper response. You should be able to handle it. And we always have to, as codependents, we have to give it back to people. No, you handle it. You're crying, fix it. Try. I don't know what I'm doing. Try. Try for a minute. I'll help you in a minute, but you try first. Did your hand go up? Okay.
I wanted to ask about other techniques which will help overcoming these issues. For example, if therapy is only minutes long, it lasts long, but some other techniques have you tried or recommend some other?
Sorry, what was the question?
What other techniques can we use, or what other techniques have you tried for overcoming these issues, insecurities, fears, emotional flashbacks?
That I haven't shared with you?
Hypnosis or something?
I would not hold anything back from you. I'm a codependent. I overgive. The stuff that I don't talk about because it's potentially dangerous. So psychedelics, drugs.
I didn't mean that.
Huh?
Not that.
Not that. You said techniques. Don't start changing it now. Yeah, but not that though. Something else. Hypnosis, yeah. Neurolinguistic programming. I've run crazy experiments with my own life that build reference experiences that have helped me. But they came at cost. They came I could be in a very different position in my life at the moment if I hadn't run those experiments. So I don't, in the final analysis, I don't know whether it was worth it or not. I wouldn't be here talking to you now if I hadn't done it. So there are other techniques, but you don't need them. Like, these are the safest ones, and these are the ones that have the most guaranteed outcome, that we can regulate the outcome of. Because do you want to get into ceremonial magic from Aleister Crowley? You didn't say no, though. You kind of went, magic, maybe.
I want to say that I think that many good things, perhaps, which are even have an older tradition than these new and fast things, they're a bit put aside.
It sounds like you have some suggestions for me.
Oh, I was asking about experience, but something like Jung was
Yeah.
exploring it a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was just wondering, do you find a place for something like that?
I do, but like the kinds of things that, like, Jung was very much in the same league as Aleister Crowley. You know Aleister Crowley, the British explorer, yeah? And he was using Kabbalistic magic, and he nearly drove himself completely insane, which is the tradition of Kabbalah. It drives people mad. So in Kabbalah, they eventually said, okay, now we'll only let men do it. They must be over 40. They must be married and have kids. Jung said, the only thing that has saved me from going completely insane is that I'm a doctor, I have clients, I have a wife, and I have children. Because do you want to enter the world of the unconscious archetype? Tarot? Kabbalah? Sure, but it makes you very weird. And I don't think it's necessary. I mean, if you said, okay, in order to get over the trauma that I've experienced, I want to obliterate it by firing chaos at it. You can do that, but I don't know who you'll be at the end of it. And you would probably be better off just going and doing psychedelics, because it's the same principle. You're hitting it with chaos. So the Kabbalistic tradition, the things that Jung was doing, was he entered the unconscious. He went to the no place. That's what psychedelics do. But after 15 hours, it wears off. I don't recommend either. This is like a nice health and safety middle class way of getting things done. I'm going crazy. Richard Grannon made everyone go completely fucking mental. I mean, but that's what they do in cults, right? You know, they do other stuff. You could. Okay, so here's something that's outside of the norm that you could do if you have any religious beliefs, is you could pray. I would go that far, but it's only if you believe. You could pray. So if you were raised Christian, you could pray. If you were raised Muslim, you can pray. If you're a Buddhist, you can meditate on it.
I'm trying to get somehow that I can't go there. I don't know.
So?
Religion is a bit.
So, that is you, this is me, what you want from me. Next question? Yes? Is this a question? Listen, I don't want a doctoral thesis again. Go ahead.
I have a tendency to paint around the story, but I have a clear question. Like usually when we speak about trauma, like it's going back, like Tom and.
You're not going to try and resolve trauma in the future now, are you?
No. Yes, but I'm wondering why are we so much, even in the process of healing, going backwards instead. Like for me personally, it was like the most, and we have a fear of going forward because it is unknown. It was literally unknown what I want, and that's really kind of cuts our feeling safe on the own feet. I feel we need that reimagining, like in a sense, like not even imagining in a sense of fantasizing, like defense mechanism, sense of going forward if we want to grow up. What can I do with a kid again? When it's so much back and it's again giving just the fake sense of control. It soothes the nerves when it's really like a panic attack or something like that. But why don't we use much more this kind of techniques? I mean, I don't have idea. It's not my thesis.
When you say this kind of techniques, which ones do you mean?
Like going back and addressing going back into this, like what we talked like childhood period and.
I thought you were asking me why don't we go into the future. Now you're asking me why don't we go into the past? Which?
No.
Oh, okay.
Why don't we put more in a healing process? Why it's not more put attention to the future, but to the inner child work. Like now, what they put so much attention like inner child work, and it was actually the part of traumatizing us because we are repeatedly being kept.
I don't know what the fuck you're on about. I'm really trying. What, you want to use inner child work to figure out your future by talking to the child in the past? We can do that.
No, we are doing that. That is the process.
Are we? Well, yeah, I suppose so. I didn't think of it that way. I didn't conceptualize it that way. But yes, you're negotiating with childhood trauma to figure out what your future will look like. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Damn. What was your question?
I want to put more
Attention on
where we want to go in the future.
Sure.
In a sense
So,
of
yeah.
progressing to the more, when we speak about we want to go to more adult age.
So one of the things that I'm doing in a seminar like this is I'm sort of treading over the laser beams, where if I say to a room full of codependent people, let's talk about what you want in your future, and they just go ping and they dissociate and be like, I can't do that. So I'm sort of getting around the defenses and telling silly jokes and talking about cherry pits, whilst secretly saying, why don't we try and see what it's like outside? And that's about as much as I think I can get away with, because that has to come from you. You can't design a future if you're not a person. If you're not authentically here, what future will you design? In this seminar, in this room, the one that you think I will think is cool, the one that you think she will think is cool. Then you'll start performing. You mentioned something before and I lost you. You said that you were very disciplined for 6 years, but it didn't help because you can be disciplined in a codependent way. And what you were talking about doing is trying to use the discipline to get into authenticity, but if the intent is not, it's not there, you're screwed. So you could use discipline as a way of hiding from your authenticity and be like, I'm really disciplined. You see that in martial arts was my background. You see a ton of codependence in the martial arts. Super, super disciplined, but they're using that to hide. So that's, what's the scarecrow? Strashilo. It's more strashilo.
It was all before I found you.
Yeah. Of course. And then eyes opened, then you understand. No more strashilo.
No way.
No more.
I can do that, please.
But that's how cunning we are. That's how yeah. You found me, and she's like, fuck the discipline.
New 6 years with
Yeah.
new knowledge,
Yeah, good.
right?
I-
I have feeling, sorry everyone, I
Yeah.
didn't raise my hand. I have
You are forgiven.
I have, thank you. I have a feeling that I was very disappointed
Mm.
in yoga,
Yeah,
martial arts,
Yeah.
everything I tried.
yeah.
So maybe now, with all the words
Mm.
I know, now I'm in that intellectual phase that I read again, everything, listen, and I understand, I can explain very well what I have learned from you and Nietzsche and everyone.
From me and Nietzsche. Madam, I will pay you after the seminar. Did you get that? I was like on camera. Me and Nietzsche. Please keep talking.
What is good on that list? What is good when you're codependent?
Yeah.
You're very good professionals.
Yes. Yes.
I'm
Yes.
a good
Yes.
professional. as
Yes.
codependent.
Yes. I think so. Yeah, martial arts. You look at yoga. You look at nursing, psychology, psychologists. Terrible codependence. And yeah, you can get really good codependently, and it's still just the scarecrow. It's still just the avatar.
After some time of doing all that good work for humanity, for
Yeah.
myself and my friends and
Yeah.
family,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
very. I don't mind being codependent. I mind being false.
Yeah. I hear you.
That's my problem. I don't mind being even a bad person, but
Yeah.
if I'm really bad person.
You would be authentically evil. I respect that. And you know who else would respect that? Nietzsche would fucking respect that. This woman has embraced authentic evil. It'd be like that. Excellent. Lovely. Okay, guys, I'm going to take one more question, and then we're nearly out of time. Does anybody else have a question? Yes, go ahead.
About parents and
Yep.
how they pass on codependency. So I was thinking about my father, watching him, but also I think if he saw me behaving in a non-codependent way, he would wrap that around and say, that's not safe to do. You shouldn't go to the horse riding party with your friends because you might break your spine.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes codependents justify their codependency through things which look normal, like kind of signifies that, like, yeah, of course, he doesn't want his kid to break her back. It's
Yeah.
fine. So I kind of think that if you have a codependent parent, you might not even be aware of it, but then they give you that present in a different form,
Yes.
and you think it's perfectly normal. Like, oh, they love me, it's fine.
Yeah.
But actually, they were slowly suffocating me and not letting me be my authentic self.
Well, so this points to a problem that we're all going to face. Like with kids and in our romantic relationships, that's the time at which the human being will show up as its most codependent self. And we've got to be so careful. You know, I've had that in loads of relationships where I'm like, I'm trying to do things for my girlfriend. And then I'm like, shouldn't you just let her do it for herself? Because I knew you were trouble the moment you walked in the door. Sorry, there was another hand that went up over here, and are you good on this side? I feel like I've taken a lot from this side. Are you guys okay? Codependently, I need to know that you feel seen and heard. You're good. Okay, we shall stop this madness there. Was that useful? Did that make sense? Yes. Okay, so thank you for your time and for your attention, and I'll see you again soon. Thank you.